5 vans instead of size 8.5 vans, and I haven't been able to wear them. Bro, right?
I mean, that was good planning for the future. At least you didn't buy them at 7.5.
The days come.
I bought a pair of boots on like clearance at REI. If you know what the REI garage sale is, it's when they sell off the stuff that like people have brought back or whatever they didn't fit them. And they were like, they seemed to fit when I tried them on there, but now I think they're slightly too snug, so I might just have to give them away to a friend with smaller feet. All right. So we, depending on what happens today, we'll probably cut this lesson in the middle and finish it tomorrow, so you guys can work on your test some more. Because I can't just keep pushing into chapter 3 when we haven't finished the chapter 2 mastery.
I have one question on the test.
The right triangle one.
It is painful. Can we just write? Please teach us this later.
I mean, sure.
This question.
So today, for a header on your notes, we're talking about unions, intersections, and complements. Now, yesterday I threw out that word that we can kind of call this complementary, even though it doesn't add up to 90. They together make a whole, right? Like all of the possible outcomes, or where we use the area model, together they must equal a 1 or 100%. So election day is very soon.
It is.
Right, it's in November. Yeah, there's elections every November. It just depends on what it is, like what level. So every even year is like more important than the odd years. That is why the Worthington levy is on this year's election as opposed to us trying to put it on last year's. Is because like not that many people turn out to vote on odd years. What are you shaking your head about? The levy. No. Okay. His name is Weedle. How did you not know how to say his? Okay.
No,
It's a brand of jeans.
Yeah, people
Oh, no, one time he thought it was pronounced Levy.
Yes. All right. So let's say. Let's say I need more coffee. Let's say we polled some people. Right. This is called statistics when you poll people and present the data. So according to a recent poll, in the race for governor, by the way, that's a really fun word to be able to say. It's the gubernatorial or something like that. How do you say it, like that race? 40% of voters support the Republican candidate. 53% of voters support the Democratic candidate. In the race for Attorney General, 61% of voters support the Republican, and 37% of voters support the Democrat. So assume the voter preference of candidate for each of two officers is independent, which does not mean if I vote Republican over here, I'm more likely to vote Republican over here. A lot of these, especially off-year elections, which this is still an off-year, it's not a presidential election year, people vote issue, not party. So some people are really tight with their party, and they say, I'm voting Democrat for everything, right? And that's a party-based ticket. You just click D. And if there's multiple Democrats, then you got to choose. But we're saying this is independent. People are just voting for who they feel is best, not based on political party. So what is the probability that a randomly selected voter supports both Democratic for the governor and the attorney general? So you decide how you want to set this up. What do you think is an appropriate model? Because there's 4 outcomes for this, right? Voting Democrat, Republican, Republican, and Republican Democrat. Right? If we're only looking at 2 positions and we only have 2 people in both.
Also, but 7% of the first people just don't even care.
Ooh.
Oh. Wait, what?
7% of the first people just don't care, she said.
The first issue.
So what do you think is an appropriate model?
3. The volume. I know. It's a model that we use.
Anyone who makes a time model has my support.
You should go for me and making a time model.
So if I make an area model, is it just going to be 2 by 2?
No.
Unfortunately not.
Oh, but where's the fun if it was?
I'm going to blank page. It's easier.
Jacob, I literally handed you your print. That's upsetting.
governor and attorney general.
I think I'd only ever use a tree chart if it was like an even chance for each of them.
So it's don't care or they're voting independent. Or they didn't want to tell. Maybe they just said like, well, I'm not going to share that with you. So my Democrat for governor is anybody?
Democrat for governor. Can you scroll more?
It is there. According to recent polls,
53%.
0.4 for governor. Republican 0.53 and
No,
independents.
it's the other way around.
It's not.
Oh yeah, sorry.
I'm doing something.
I read that wrong. Sorry, my ink is still really big from earlier. 0.07 here.
Isn't that last one supposed to be smaller?
Now the area model, thank you for asking that, doesn't always have to be sized strategically. That's just something that we use to help us if we need to be able to see it. So we could make our last one real small, but then it's going to get really hard for me to write in it. So I'm going to keep it a little bit larger just so I can fit my values in
You
it.
tell me this now.
Almost like a Nordic flag.
This would have been great like
Let me
2
see it.
minutes ago.
What star are you influenced? Like, yeah. How'd you do it like that?
I don't
Just
know.
backward.
But instead we
I didn't plan on it looking like a flag.
E-R.
I know a lot of flags from head soccer.
From what?
It's the stupid game on his phone that
It's
he
0.02.
There we go, 0.02.
Like no one can. Everyone cares about. Don't care. Everyone cares about the attorney general.
Okay, you better tell me.
Because he's the general.
I mean, yeah, but
Better tell me.
The general population cares more. Get it?
get it.
Looking around for social validity.
Get it?
Validity?
Yeah.
I literally heard your pun and my legitimately started to cry. I have no idea why.
I mean, I'm
Died.
Okay, so that was really funny.
Hopefully you have these values. And as I said before, we should be calculating every so often just to make sure we're comfortable using the calculator so when it comes down to assessment time.
I have the only calculator. Give it out.
No, you. Christopher's career ruined by devastating No You. Times Magazine.
Oh, we celebrate.
Oh, my Go players, I just filled out all the stuff this morning to get us our free kits, so we will have all the gear that Devin has. And then when he's here, we'll have his gear as well. It's like on off days, you'll still be able to borrow the bigger boards. And that comes with a bunch of copies of the little book that he has, so you guys can have those. I'll probably ask you to bring them back, but you can keep it for like a year probably. Or at least until you get done reading it. So if we were being asked something specific, we wouldn't necessarily need to fill out the whole table.
It's 9 boxes.
Oh, that's like an entire game of tic tac toe.
It's really easy.
Oof.
Are you okay, Satya?
There, don't press this.
I'm an abstract human being today. I'm not an artist.
Very few people. Wait, how many people are there in America?
A lot. 200 million. No,
I think it's like 320.
Not in
America.
Now this was of people polled, right? Like of people surveyed.
You can still use that.
So if we want to approximate with percentages, we've got like 20%, 15%, 2.5.
280,000 people don't
24%, 32%,
Label.
1%. I know. I'm just working fast. And actually, you don't need to convert this to percent. 0.8%. Sorry, my eight's kind of fat. 4.3 if we went around, and 0.14.
People don't care about it.
14 hundredths of 1%. Right, so less than a percent.
Yeah.
Almost a tenth of 1% are independent on both categories. It's a very small subset, which is why people argue that you're throwing your vote away, quote unquote, because the chance of an independent winning is so small on the normal based off how heavily weighted the Democrat and Republican
30
vote
million
tends to be.
people will vote.
Yeah, a lot of people don't vote. So when we talk about intersections, sorry, I'm trying to watch time. I'm not going to rush a super ton. Like, we can just pick this up tomorrow if we need, and we can make up time, or I can modify my plans. I only write in pencil. So we know what events are, right? Events are the outcome, the thing we're looking for. So Democrat, 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 Republican, and we threw in the independents because we weren't full. We didn't completely add up to 100%, so we realized we needed that third column. So read this real quick, then I'm going to pull up the big definition. So, check it. This is how things will start to be written in high-level math. Intersection of two events. We'll call it event A and event B. That you guys can read.
Can we? This seems like a very self-explanatory word.
Yeah.
How intersection of two events means intersections of two events.
Wow.
That makes sense.
Now, union is different, though. So before we move on, I want to have you read this.
Oh, either or.
This is either or.
Either or.
Or.
Okay, so do we see the difference?
Why do you have these?
Intersection is like the middle of a Venn diagram. Union is all of everything in both sides of the Venn diagram, if you have A and B and you think of it like that. So, if we want to talk about the intersection here, the event that we get a Democratic governor and a Democratic attorney general.
20%.
So if we go back to,
DD.
we would shade
DD.
highlighter. So Democratic Attorney General, right? Democratic Governor. So what is the chance we get a Democrat for both parties? 20%, right? Thank you for raising your hand, but Chris is excited, right? He's ready to go. So, fairly easy when we make a model. Okay, when you don't make a model, you just have to make sure that you're using the appropriate values to multiply, because here we know it's just the 0.53 times the 0.37, right? So now let's extend that to union, which actually is really interesting when we think about unions of events like this or that happening. Like, what if we set up an actual probability table for like your family going to get pizza and your family going to get ice cream? Like, I would love the intersection, but I would take the union, right? Anything, and I would like pizza. I would like ice cream. And either happening would make my night, right? So the pizza and is much, much less likely to happen. All right, so Darren, let's check in with Darren. Darren's a Democrat. Go figure, that's an alliteration. Hoping that a Democrat candidate will win at least one of the offices to get himself up in there. So we now have the 53-37s. Still doesn't seem like that's complimentary.
No.
Yeah, because that's only 90%.
I saw 3 to 7, like, oh, okay, they go to 100.
So Antonia says, wait, what? Right, so Darren might be slightly skewed. Now, as much as we would like to think that with a 53% and a 37%, we could add those and say that we have a 90% chance of getting a Democrat in there, that doesn't seem to work out right? Because then we end up with a percentage over 100. So if we go to look at the union, we have our Democrat. So what's the chance that a Democrat takes Attorney General? This is not a trick question. Sorry, Chris.
37.5%.
Is it 37 and a half?
Yeah. Or 37. Yeah. 37.
If you're right.
37%.
So take a moment. Hey, can we not like bend and crease and like just try to do that flat? Take a moment, talk with your team. What do you think is the union of the Democrats? So Democrat wins something.
Wait, Democrat can win anything?
No, Democrat wins something.
So
Either they win.
Oh, and this one. This one. No. 37. Is better than the other. Sure for that problem. No, dude, but then that's just 20.
We're on union now. Okay, we're on union, not intersection. We're on union.
What's 56 plus 37.5?
No, that won't work. Because then think about Republican. How could that work?
No, it doesn't eliminate Republican.
It doesn't work like that.
It doesn't work like that.
No, it does.
They aren't complementary. Because 70%
No,
has.
no, it does work. It does work.
You're doing the math and tell us
You'll get
why.
one.
Jacob, do you want to come up here?
Oh, yeah, one Democrat.
Okay, so this is what it's asking. That would be 70.5%. So it could be this gets Democrat, but then this could be like Republican or don't care, and
Independent.
independent, or it could be here, and then this could be Republican or this could be independent. So it still leaves this stuff open, or it could be either of these.
Okay, so what are you saying your chances?
70.5%.
And how'd you get that?
By adding up all of these percentages.
We add up those percentage or the probability if you want to work in decimals. So I heard people still say you got to multiply this and that.
You just
We
get
already
20%.
did that. What'd you say?
You just get 20%.
No. That's for Democrat getting both.
Yeah.
So you are still stuck on intersection. Okay?
Oh,
This is a different question, Satya. This is why I said this is union like 4 times.
I know we added them all together and got 7.5. I thought you were talking about like the mistake was people were multiplying these.
Oh, okay. So here's the thing: are we okay if we get 2 Democrats? Do we still have at least 1?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So the intersection will be included in the union, but the union should be larger than the intersection because the union is saying either of these events is favorable for us. I'd be happy with either of these. Does that make sense? So I'd be really happy if I get pizza and ice cream, or in this case, like both Democrats. If I'm a Democrat, I would really like that to happen. But yeah, that is, we add them for union.
But you got pizza flavored ice cream.
So how could we figure out? How could we figure out this one? What's the probability a randomly selected voter supports a Republican for governor and a Democrat for attorney general?
I need a calculator. Addition's hard.
Thomas?
24%.
Now 24.
Oh, wait, no.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, it's this, right? Because that's an and, right? That's an and situation. And means intersection. You might want to put that in your notes. If we look at E, what's the probability a randomly selected voter supports a Republican for governor or a Democrat for attorney general? That now is union. So, you want to know how I remember it? Really dumb tricks, but they work in my brain. Union's a shorter word than intersection. Right?
Okay, just remember
Or
that.
is a shorter word than and.
Genius.
If you're struggling to remember it, now you should be able to remember and is the intersection. But if I'm looking at the or of Republican for governor, okay, so any of these are Republican for governor. Or Democrat for attorney general, any of these. Now the and, yeah, was right here. We just talked about it. But I don't care about the and. I want the or. So it's all of these.
Or is union and is intersection.
And is intersection or is union.
It's like that annoying like color the side of the graph where the answers come from.
and is intersection or is union.
T-pose,
Um,
guys.
At that point, I think you have enough skills to be able to work on the homework at least a little bit. So I want to cut here for now, get you guys your tests back, and make sure you have a little bit more time to work on those.
Can we turn on more lights? Is that candy?
Yes and no. No, it's not candy. Okay, that's a lie. It is candy, but it's not for you. It was for, I made an incentive in my Math 7 class of if they played this little game outside of class, I would give them candy.
Well, we didn't have a chance to get that, therefore this is unfair.
There's like a daily set.
Problem
Can we do the
is-
daily set and then whoever gets it first gets the candy?
Life is really not fair.
Yeah, so
So
we
we
can
can-
So there would be no benefit to him giving us candy for this.
Mr. Hudson.
Yes.
Can we do the daily set puzzle and like we put it up on the screen and then whoever gets it first gets the candy.
Potentially once we get beyond the first discovery day, so I have a better feel for where we are in the tech. Like I need to make it through a quarter and see how far we progress. I mean, yeah, but if you have time, I'd like you to re-engage with that and try it again.
I've tried. The more I think about it, the worse it gets.
Give me like 5 or 10 minutes, and I would probably put some help up on the board for you. Okay?